Do you see my little sloth friend in the background? He is so cute. 500 yen. He's so cute. He was from Daiso. Anyway, sit back over here. Okay. Hello everyone, and good morning from me. I'm filming this video before work, and I actually don't know if I have enough time to finish it. We're gonna try our best. I recently did my Sensei sessions video about challenges of working in Japan, challenges of teaching at an eikaiwa in Japan, and I was thinking of other videos about teaching that I could make, and the first one to come to my mind besides that one was about my theater training. For anyone who doesn't know, I think I've only mentioned it 1 or 2 times on this channel, but I was an actor before moving to Japan to teach English. People usually have a lot of questions about that, so I might make another video about why I am here in the first place. Yes, I was an actor beforehand. I studied theater at university. I studied theater and creative writing. I trained as a singer since I was a young child. I was really going down like the path of doing that when suddenly I just like veered to the other side of the world and came to Japan. For this video, I would like to talk about how I use my theater training as an English teacher. Actually, when I interviewed for my job, the person who interviewed me told me after the end of the day that he was interested in me because I studied theater and because I was an actor. I was very shocked by this at the time. I thought, like, for English teachers, wouldn't they want people who studied education or strictly English? I can't really talk from their side of things. I don't hire people. I don't work on that side of the English teaching business. So I will talk about being a teacher and using my acting skills on the daily in the classroom. Let's get started. Number 1, improvisation. For those of you who don't understand improvisation in theater, it is the most important thing. If something goes wrong on stage, mild to severe wrong, an actor has to be able to pick themselves back up and continue. The show must go on. I know it's really cliche, but it's very true. The way that I use improvisation and like thinking on my feet in the classroom is pretty simple. While I'm teaching, I'm the only teacher in the classroom, and anything can go wrong at any time. With improvisation training, you have to be able to feel out your surroundings and feel out like what needs to be changed and change it in a more positive direction. I feel like this is such actor language. I don't really know how to articulate this. If I'm teaching and something comes up in the lesson plan and like I did not see it before or didn't have time to prepare it, this happens sometimes with children's songs when I'm teaching. There are a lot of like new songs every week, and sometimes something came up like before work or before my class that I had to attend to, maybe a meeting, and then I get in the classroom to set up and the students are outside ready to come in and I see this song and I don't really know this song. Using improv, I'm able to stay calm in a situation like that and just like keep on going, like play the song, figure it out as I go along. You have to always act like you know what you're doing, even if you are clueless. When I first started teaching, I've become more comfortable now, but when I first started teaching, there were a lot of things my training couldn't prepare me for, because it's very different like being trained by trainers versus actually being in a classroom full of Japanese people and being the only teacher there. So there were a lot of like instances where like I felt like things were going wrong and I just had to like keep my head up and pretend like they were going exactly according to plan. One day I started teaching the wrong lesson completely, and my students, I had planned like everything out, the board, what I was gonna say, and the students just said, like, this is not the right lesson for this class. And right on the spot, like, I erased the board, rewrote everything, like told them to like turn to the right page. I was really embarrassed, but I had to teach the lesson and time was ticking, and I felt like theater had prepared me for that, because I think, and I've heard from other teachers that don't have my background, that like they have panicked or just felt like such bad anxiety while teaching, but I like rarely feel that. Something stressful can happen and I just have to like jump into actor mode, it feels like. Very, very important, especially when working with people who don't speak your language. There are a lot of communication disconnects, and you have to think of different ways to communicate right on the spot. So all those years of improv games kind of feel like they're playing out in my life now with my students and with people every day in Japan. So I'm so grateful that I studied theater. Truly, if you study theater, you can totally do this. So don't be discouraged. Number 2, voice and speech. Voice and speech is usually the title of a course at a drama school or a university. So I've taken many courses called voice and speech or voice to do with training of the voice. I'm very protective of my voice. I have been from a young age because I trained as a singer very young. So I knew that your voice could be easily damaged if you misuse it. So I have always been a pretty soft-spoken person, pretty quiet in social situations, which like some people would be surprised by now in Japan, because I think most Japanese people are quieter than me, but that's just because I'm American. I'm very aware of how my voice feels, if I'm taking care of it. This is so important, not just teaching in Japan, but being a teacher. I use my voice like all day long. I use my voice like more than I would sometimes use my voice at like drama school or when I was studying theater at university. I'm teaching lesson after lesson after lesson, and I'm the teacher, so I need to speak English because I'm teaching a language. I drink a lot of tea. I don't like to waste my vocal energy, so I don't yell for no reason, like screaming. I'm even in situations where I'm getting excited, I try to keep my voice pretty controlled. I'm always feeling it, making sure it feels okay. In addition, voice and speech classes also covered things like dialects and pronunciation. So I have a very neutral accent. If you have an ear for accents, you can tell. I'm from New York, but I don't have a New York accent at all. I had a lot of speech therapy growing up, so my speech was brought from like having a lot of speech impediments to being a neutral voice. In addition to this, there are certain ways that the teachers like things to be pronounced. I did a lot of Shakespeare, so especially in Shakespeare, there are ways people like to hear pronunciation. This is so helpful for me. Even Shakespeare is helpful for me teaching here. I have some lessons that are about the stress of syllables. And I've talked to some other teachers that like don't really know how to teach these lessons sometimes, because like they don't always know which part of the word is the right stress or how to explain it. But for years, I studied Shakespeare, and for hours and hours of my life, my teachers would explain the stress of a syllable in one word over and over again, and why it was important and what it meant, iambic pentameter, all these things that I just can't believe that they come up while I'm teaching English here. In addition to things like pronunciation and like stress of the voice, because I studied acting and some dialects, I have a really good ear for dialects, so I can always start a conversation about that. I can meet a Japanese person and hear something in their dialect and say, oh, did you study abroad in Australia? Oh, was your teacher British by any chance? I'm always starting like conversations on dialects because I hear words very clearly. I have an ear for it. It's also helpful because I have some very advanced students that maybe they're like pretty much fluent in English, and I can start talking about things like dialects. I had a student where I told him, you're at this point in your English ability where if you want, you can focus on speaking in a particular dialect. I was explaining how different words have very like different pronunciations in American and British English, and I asked him like which you would prefer to focus on. Because when someone is studying English, it is important to be aware that the dialects they're hearing are different. Maybe they work with a particular country for business. Say they work with more Americans. They might want to focus on learning more American English or American words, American dialect, because they can actually like communicate much more effectively. So these are things that I talk about with my students and I'm very aware of because I studied acting. All these things that feel like they can only apply to acting don't, and it's incredible. So yeah, all my actors out there, you can really help some people out with your training and you may not even realize it. Okay, number 3, movement and presence. Tons of actors study movement. They have to study movement training. There are many different types of movement styles I'm not going to get into. Movement was very difficult for me for a while because I felt in the past like very uncomfortable in my body for a few reasons. I'm not going to get into right now, but I felt very unnatural in my body, so movement was difficult for me. These classes really freed me up and helped me to stop thinking about what I was doing and just feel it and just emote with my body and move naturally. I've had movement classes where we crawled around on the ground pretending to be cats for an hour. This is something that happens, a lot of pretending to be animals. I've had movement classes where we had to, like, this was a British movement class, by the way. We had to just imagine like a space, like we were lost in the jungle and we had to fight our way out, like full intention, nothing's there. We're just like, it's all in our imagination. So much of movement is about just like using your body to navigate an imaginary space and make it real, which is so important for theater because we're acting sometimes just like in a little black box or on a stage, or the audience is right there but you have to pretend they're not. How does any of this play into teaching in Japan? I think that it is very helpful for me because movement is all about the way you present yourself and the way you navigate a space. If I walk into a space and I'm kind of like, oh, hi, how are you? How are you doing today? So the lesson is this, so okay. Yeah, so if I'm teaching like that, are you gonna trust me? Are you gonna like respect me in any way? Probably not. I actually don't think you should if I walked into a classroom and started teaching like that. Okay, but if I walk in and I say, hello, how are you? Like today we're going to be learning about this. Please open your book. This is the page. Okay, let's get started. Like very precise movement and very clean movement, very confident movement, also holding my head up and having good posture. Immediately, the students are going to feel more comfortable. And this is true anywhere in the world. When you do any job, people are going to trust you more and trust your opinion, respect you more if you present yourself this way. Also, I'm not going to say my age in this video, but I am much younger than people think I am. I might be the youngest person teaching in my whole company, just because of how things worked out with like my education. I graduated early from university. In Japan, there are some different levels of like respect related to age. So I feel like I need to present myself much older using movement and voice control in order to gain the respect of older students in particular. You must be comfortable in your body to do a job like this when you're standing in front of a room and they all are trusting you at your word and listening to you. They're allowed to disrespect you if you come in and don't present yourself in a way that is beneficial to their learning, and that's my opinion on it. Movement training is great. Number 4, stage fright is not a problem. I started singing from a young age, but the first time I had to sing in front of people, I was petrified. I loved singing, but I had crippling stage fright. I also have anxiety, which I've talked about on my blog, but I had crippling stage fright. Like the feeling was, it was just like pure fear of being in front of people and performing, even though I liked singing. I kind of over the years fought through my stage fright, and I do this too with my anxiety. I would not have been able to come to Japan if I didn't fight through my anxiety to get here. I have had a lot of experience with stage fright, but I have also performed in front of hundreds of people and sang in front of hundreds of people and had so many opportunities to work on myself and how I handle being free and open and performing in front of others. So because of all that theater stuff, when I got in a classroom for the first time, I did not feel afraid. All these little kids looking at me, all these adults looking at me, all their attention's on me, and it's okay because like I did theater and I'm prepared for this. I'm very accustomed to people watching me. This is really such a benefit of being an actor and coming to teach in Japan or another country. You really have an advantage. Some people are very afraid of having that kind of attention on them or being in front of a classroom. The only times I would feel it were when I wasn't prepared. If you're not prepared for something, of course you're going to feel stage fright or be afraid or anxious. That's why so many people have dreams that they like forgot all their lines in a play or were suddenly forced to go on stage. Maybe these are actor dreams. But yeah, I still have these dreams, even since being here. All those dreams are rooted in not being prepared for something. If you go in to teach a lesson and you are just like totally unprepared and unaware of what you're doing, and just not taking your job seriously, you're gonna feel afraid, and you probably deserve it because as a teacher, it's your responsibility to do well, and teach well and deliver a good lesson. So please be prepared. If it's something like I mentioned earlier with like one little thing you forgot, or a mistake, you didn't purposely like not prepare, but something comes up and you have to improvise, then you have your improvisation skills. It's a whole package. If you don't have acting experience and you're going to teach in Japan, you're gonna be fine. You might be afraid at first. I have some friends who experience kind of performance anxiety in the classroom, and it's okay because they're great teachers and they fight through it and they're getting stronger each day. you can grow so much as a person. I feel like I've even become better at handling any sort of anxiety about being in front of people since being here. Number 5, ensemble. Ensemble in theater is talking about like the whole package, like the whole group of people involved in a show. Everything in the classroom is a group effort. I often feel like I'm the director of my students and directing their learning. So it's my job like to be part of this ensemble and to be aware of different things that they're experiencing and think about how I can do better for them and how I can make their experience better. There are so many beautiful moments in the classroom where everyone will like laugh about something as a group, or everyone will agree on something, or everyone will be surprised by something. Maybe like I tell them something about American culture and they're so like shocked by it. And just everyone, these feelings of togetherness are ensemble and make me think about like when I was doing theater. It's beautiful to connect with people in any context. And that's why I loved being an actor and studying theater. It's also why I love being a teacher and connecting with students, especially my students from a completely different culture than mine. I always feel like I'm learning so much, and I always feel like I'm part of a community when I'm in the classroom. We are our own little community for that hour or so, and it's an incredible thing. Number 6, empathy and vulnerability. This is all about connecting with a student despite any language or cultural barrier. So empathy is the ability to feel the emotions of other people. I think empathy has to be exercised, and as actors, all we would do is exercise our empathy and like just connect with other people and like feel what they were feeling and understand these characters. When we were acting, like understanding characters we sometimes couldn't personally relate to, but we had to feel what they were feeling in order to be them. When I first started studying acting and learning about these things, and I started to feel like a sense. I don't like calling it a sixth sense because I feel like that is a different connotation, but I do feel like I have another sense than some other people have, which is related to feeling and understanding people beyond language. So very often I feel with my students that I can understand exactly what they're feeling, exactly what they're going through. If they're frustrated, I feel it. If they're sad, I feel it. If they're excited, if they're not enjoying a lesson, I can feel it like here, and I know it's because of my acting training. I think it's very important to have this ability as a teacher. This is a job about communication and connection, so you need to be open, which brings me to vulnerability. Vulnerability is the act of openness. Just being wide open. Your students are going to be much more like willing to like trust you and listen to you and learn from you if you're vulnerable. This goes back to the whole movement thing with how I present myself in the classroom. Vulnerability also has to do with talking about my own experiences. If I share more about myself with my students, then they'll share more about themselves, which can be difficult. If a student's really struggling, I'm at first, and I think anyone would, first I'm going to be like, oh, why are they feeling this way? Like, why is this happening? It's really frustrating for me to teach them. And yeah, that's anyone's initial response to conflict. But my next step immediately after is to figure out what the problem is. Recently, I had a student who was not really seeing eye to eye to me, and I sat down with them and we had a whole one-on-one conversation. I found out why they studied English, And I'm not going to share anything personal, of course, in this video, but I found out like things that really made me like feel empathy, things that really made me like question why I had judged at all. I would recommend, if you teach English in Japan, do your best to find out why your adult students study English so that you can connect better with them and understand why they might get frustrated at any given time. Learning a language is very, very frustrating, I know, because I study languages too, but it's like extremely frustrating, especially if you have a real motivation for it. I've seen students just like crippled with stress, adult students come into my class crippled like from like anxiety and stress because they need to know English for work and like they're not good enough, and like their boss is telling them like they need to like get better at it, and it's just horrible to see people that stressed. All you can do is look at them in the eye, ask like what's wrong, like what happened at work today, like, and just encourage them, tell them that their English like is going really well, and yeah, just always be encouraging, always be vulnerable, always be empathetic, and work to connect with your students. Don't just go in, teach, and leave, take your paycheck, whatever. Like, yeah, that's important, but like, you need to actually do your job. You need to actually care about who you're teaching. You just look at the people you're teaching and think that's another person, and we should form a bridge, we should connect. I feel like I sound like such a hippie. This is just what actors sound like, people. Oh my god. Okay, we've come to my last point, number 7. I'm calling this clowning and general silliness. At one point in my theater training, when I was studying in London, I did do clowning, and it did have a major impact on my life and how I was able to feel like less shame while being embarrassed. That sounds very contradictory, but when I was doing clowning, this style of clowning was all about doing the most embarrassing, humiliating thing in front of a bunch of people, having them laugh at you, and for like you to just like let them laugh and not feel like not feel like embarrassed by it, just like exist and allow it to happen. I will be in front of the class, especially with kids, and I'll have to do things that to any normal person are absolutely humiliating. Absolutely humiliating. I'll have to like sing very strange songs for the kids or do like little dances, and just kind of like be, like people say, kind of be like their dancing monkey. I just have to like be completely like weird sometimes and make the kids excited about learning English. Yeah, this applies more to children than adults. Yeah, like we do tons of games, tons of songs, yeah, just like, and also kids will like find things funny about you and just laugh at you, especially middle schoolers will make fun of you. There was a day like a few months ago though that some of my middle school students were like really mean to me, and I left work and I was so upset. I like felt like I was back in like school and that like they were the bullies, but like I'm totally unbothered now. Sometimes you need to like hit that low, or you're having a bad day and someone like triggers you, and then you can pick yourself back up from it. So that's kind of what happened. Any other day with the silliness, I just feel so fine being silly now, and feel so fine being silly because of all the strange things I have done as an actor. I've done many strange things as an actor. Yeah, I've just been very weird in front of people because I had to. Your ego needs to be like crushed into a million pieces so that you can act. Because if you've watched a movie or a play, like embarrassing situations happen and actors have to perform them. Just have fun. Just have fun if you're teaching. They're kids. They're gonna laugh at you and you're gonna laugh at them. They're gonna really make you laugh. My kids crack me up every single day and it's part of the fun of it. So my final message to all you actors watching this is maybe think about getting out of your comfort zone and doing something with your acting training that can benefit others or can benefit you in a different way. I'm so glad that I came to Japan and that I'm experiencing this different culture that's fueling my creativity and inspiring me, challenging me. I'm just feeling all of these emotions that I never would have felt if I didn't come here, and who knows what I'm going to do in the future. But if I get back to doing acting in the future, which I think I would like to, then like this experience is going to shape me as an actor, and being an actor shaped who I am as a teacher. So be open to different possibilities and be open to travel and sharing what you have with another culture. So that's my video about theater training. Let me know if you want to see more about this or if you want me to make a video about how I ended up in Japan. Right, so as usual, arigato gozaimasu, thank you, and mata ne, see you.